So let's get with the big story this week, Zero. And this story, everyone heard of, and I think everyone wants a bunch of takes on this. And this is Sony raising the price of the PS5 in all regions except US, except not. And we'll get to that in a second. So basically, Sony had a press release on their PlayStation blog that essentially said that they're increasing the price of the PS5 in all regions except for the US. They cited the cost of materials to make the PS5 and inflation as the reason as to why they have to do this. This is not only rare, this is unheard of in the games industry. This may not be so unheard of in tech in general. So people who may not be into the gaming industry may not think of this as a big deal, but because in tech this happens often. But in the gaming industry, no, that doesn't happen at all. Most hardware manufacturers bend over backwards to not only keep the price the way it is, but to sometimes drop it. Sony doing this now is really unheard of. So, Zero, what are your thoughts on Sony raising the price of their PS5?
It's a bit weird because I think the criticism that I've seen kind of worldwide has been just, yeah, normally consoles go down in price. They don't go up in price, has
Yep, that's
been
right.
the main criticism that I've seen. But at the same time, we've seen this sort of similar trend with the Oculus, the Meta Quest 2 headset bumping up in price as well too. So it's a really weird time to see this happen, to
Right.
say the least.
I would say with the Meta Quest, even though I thought that was a bad idea in itself too, the Meta Quest is, I would say, some may disagree with this, and that's fine. It's in a different category. It's technically gaming, but it's more of a tech product than it is, I would say, a gaming product. But the other thing as well to keep in mind is that the Quest is probably the most affordable of the gaming of those virtual reality goggles. There's also the HTC Vive, which is I think $1,000 in order to buy it.
Yeah.
Whereas Sony just made their PlayStation 5 the most expensive console on the market by raising its price. That's, I think, a key difference. But you have a good point. Meta did raise the price of its Meta Quest, possibly giving Sony the insight and the possibility of doing it themselves. But Meta had, I would say, not a great excuse, but a better excuse as to them saying, oh, we need this in order to innovate more in the field, which more or less sounds like we put too much money into this and we need to make more. So there is what it sounds like there. Whereas Sony, I would say, doesn't need to do that at all.
So pretty much just it's a bit interesting that the price is going up and they're citing higher materials cost. And that part I can somewhat see on a tech end because of the fact that right now, just for anyone who's not familiar with what's going on in China, the Chinese Communist Party has been on this tear for this zero COVID sort of thing going on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a bit wacky because um, they're pretty much like if there's even one case of COVID, they'll shut an entire factory down, even if 99% of the other workers just don't have any sort of issues or anything. So it's kind of just a strange sort of situation going on, and of course. This has been impacting a lot of chip manufacturers, and then on top of that, there's been news of power outages in Sichuan province, which does a lot of microchip manufacturing as well too. So that's been yet another blow to manufacturing as a whole. So I mean that piece I guess I can understand here and there. And then, of course, the fact that inflation is going on is kind of wacky too, because of course, um, just inflation means the console goes more expensive, and some people are just going to skip out and say, okay, well, never mind. Just was going to buy a PS5, but not for that much more, I guess.
Yeah, I mean and that's going to be the result here. In all those what do you call it? In all those regions except the U.S. that they're going to raise the price. The people who don't have it are now going to say, "Oh God, I'm going to have to spend an extra 50 euros or 50 Australian dollars to get this," whereas the Xbox is the same price it was before. You just gave your competition a new reason for your gaming system not to be bought. Uh, yeah, I'm stunned by this, honestly, because Sony technically doesn't need to do this. I think. I mean, you mentioned the cost of materials and that China's having its issues, but let's get into Microsoft. Microsoft uses, I would say, the same parts to a certain extent. Maybe, maybe the only thing that is different is maybe the controller parts for the DualSense. But like Microsoft isn't raising prices, and those of you can say, "Oh, well, Microsoft has X more money than Sony." Sony has billions of dollars. Okay, that just because they don't have as many billions as Microsoft doesn't mean that they can't swallow it for a little bit while this is going on. What are the analysts saying as to how long this shortage is going to go? A year, maybe, if that.
As far as that goes, I know that uh, the Intel CEO, he was predicting this whole chip production shortage
Mm-hmm.
may go on until 2025. At least
Okay.
that's his speculation on it. And I mean, I've seen some other analysts speculate that we'll be over this whole tech hurdle um, around 2024 because supposedly that's when the chip fabs that are going up in Europe and the US will be stood up, and at that point, just they'll be sort of transitioning some of the production to more local sites.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really hard to say, especially because there's honestly no telling what hurdles the chip fabrication factories could have because you don't know. I mean, in maybe in 2 years' time from now, there could be some sort of drastic tech emergency that happens, and they can't get the essential bits and pieces to build these chip fabrication machines. I have no idea. I'm no fortune teller, so
Yeah.
um, it's just hard to say. And as much as a pessimist as I am sometimes, I probably would say that Intel CEO making the prediction that we may not be out of this until 2025, I would say that's probably going to be right on the money.
Do you do you feel the raising of the price for the PS5 was warranted, or is this what some people think? Is this Sony basically recognizing, well, we're the market leader, people want our console, even if they have to pay more money, they'll get our console, so why not raise the price?
I think this is Jim Ryan pulling a Neo Geo.
Okay.
And for anyone who's not familiar with the history of the Neo Geo MVS, which was the no, excuse me, the AES, which was the home console, Neo Geo used to sell this home console that was 1-to-1 equal to their arcade cabinets, but it had a whopping price of $700, and that's not a joke.
No, I remember that. And weren't the
So
games like $200 each too?
200 to 500 a cartridge.
Hmm. I remember that.
Pretty much Neo Geo's logic back in the day was, if people want it, they will go out and buy it. Um, and of course, just that's a lot of money to cough up. First off,
Oh, definitely.
um, especially in 1995 or 1996, and so just that that's just a lot of cash to cough up in the first place, and then the fact that On top of that, just game cartridges cost anywhere from $200 to $500 a cartridge for the Neo Geo. Completely bonkers, insane stuff.
Yeah.
So, and of course, just because of that, just the Neo Geo was sort of a bit of a market failure because, well, just they didn't sell very many of them, and unfortunately, that's also turned these consoles into collector's items.
Right.
And for anyone who wants perspective, $700 in 1996 was would be the equivalent of $1.3 thousand in today's money. Just to give you an idea of how expensive the Neo Geo was.
Yeah.
So, I think that's sort of the strategy Jim Ryan's playing, which is, hey, we're the market leader. We've got the best, the most critically beloved games on our console. People are gonna still want to buy our console. Just price raise be damned, and people will go out of their way to pay the extra money to buy our console because they're gonna say our console's worth it.
Right.
But at the same time, you've got a very, very clever play by Microsoft because Microsoft had kind of decided to clown on PlayStation for this and basically said, "Oh yeah, so our competition's talking about raising prices due to inflation and materials cost. We're not doing it. Um, we believe that we have some of the best games and we offer the most value to our gamers, so we see no reason to raise our price."
Right. And and this really is the return of PS3 Sony to be apt to me, as someone who's been following the gaming industry for so long now. This is PS3 Sony all over again, and I think it's worse than that now. Them basically saying, not only raising the price, but saying you'll buy it anyway, is just such a bad look, especially for a company that raised prices to $70 on their games, who also is releasing a game this week, which we'll get to later, that is $70, that a lot of people, including fans of the series, are saying that's too much. So they're becoming more and more, I would say, customer adverse, I guess is what I would call it, where they don't look at customer value as an important thing. They just think, oh, if you want our stuff, and you do, you'll buy it. So suck nuts, pal, and that's it. I wouldn't be so shocked if they raised game prices to $80 in the next year or so, calling their games premium experiences and saying, if you want our premium experiences, you can spend an extra $10 on it. Like I'm just, as a customer thing, this is horrible. And yeah, technically people will say, oh, if you don't have the PlayStation 5 right now, you're technically not a customer. Okay, sure. But do you want to be one of those customers that had to pay $50 to $70 extra for something that other people didn't have to? You don't want to be that person. You know what they call you in most terms? A schmuck. You want to be felt like you're a schmuck. You want to think that you had you got a fair price for what you got. And another thing that people don't really talk about here is the fact that, yeah, Sony's first-party games are critically acclaimed and they're beloved, but they're not the biggest selling games. The biggest selling games and the most popular games are third-party games. Call of Duty, Madden, FIFA, those games. If someone is looking to get the new Madden, new FIFA, because they're not updating the old games from the PS4 and Xbox One anymore, they say, well, I gotta go get the new system then. They go to the store and they see the Xbox Series X for $500, but they see the PlayStation 5 for $570. They're gonna get the Xbox because, well, it plays FIFA, so why the fuck do I care? And they're gonna lose that sale.
Yep. And then it's also a double whammy attack from Microsoft's end because typically with all the Xbox consoles, be it the Series X or the Series S, you typically get a trial card for Xbox Game Pass Ultimate for at least 3 months.
Right. And yeah.
And with that, just Microsoft can kind of loop you in and go, hey, I know times are tight right now and money's hard, but look into our service. We're cool because you can play all the hottest games for just about 15, 16 a month. And yeah, you don't have to run out to the store and buy the disc. You can just preload that shit and get it ready on release date. And then when the release date comes, boom, you're ready to rock and roll with all your friends online, or play a single player game in the comfort of your own home.
Sony itself also has problems with its service and with its system to a certain extent. This is a personal problem with me. My old PS4 games is on a external hard disk drive, and what I used to do is connect the hard disk drive to the PS5 to play all those games. After a certain update, something happened where if I plug in that external hard drive, the system freezes completely. And I've contacted Sony, and they don't know what the problem is. They said wait for a future update, essentially. And I'm not the only one who's had this problem. Some have had this problem since day one, and have pretty much said, "Yeah, I'm not even connecting that hard drive at all until I know it 100% works." And I got lucky. My problem was only it freezes the system, and then as soon as I plug it out, it unfreezes, which is really weird. Some I've heard that if they plug it in, it bricks their system, or it just hard locks, and they have to unplug it from the wall and plug it back in, and then have to rebuild the database each time they do it. Like Sony, and I will also say, as an owner of both the Xbox and the PlayStation 5, the Sony UI is not that great either. So it's slow, it's cumbersome, it doesn't look great in a visual perspective. Xbox, although it's the same as it was in Xbox One, it's clean, it's fast, it's snappy. There are a lot of things that, despite it being $500, I don't find it to be a premium system to a certain extent. Because when you think of a premium system and you're paying extra for that system, you're expecting quick, snappy, beautiful, things like that. And I don't see that with the PS5. So you're now just giving people more excuses to put a bigger microscope on your console and basically judge it more, essentially. Just to now nitpick and say, oh, well, PlayStation Plus goes down sometimes, like stuff like that, to de-incentivize them to spend more money on your system. So I will make this prediction. I think we'll find in the next couple of years, as this price increase stays, that this will just be to Microsoft's benefit, and they'll start making more sales than PlayStation. Like, if this stays for, I would say, 2 years, I can see Microsoft being the market leader just by this alone.
Oh yeah, because the way when you look at it from a consumer's point of view, like maybe a mom or an aunt or an uncle or a dad who's trying to decide for their little son or daughter which big system to go with, they're if they're not gamers, they're going to look purely on the value. And when they see that the Xbox Series X is just a little bit cheaper, they're just going to go, yeah, I'm going to go with this Xbox thing. I mean, sure, little Jack or Jane may bitch because it's not a PlayStation and it's not what all their friends are on, but they'll get over it, especially with the fact that Game Pass is tied to their Xbox purchase, and it'll be just kind of this nice convenience thing of, hey, we don't have to go buy games anymore. Just I pay $15 a month, you get all the new games, little Jane or little John, and just boom. Parents don't have to worry about running out to buy the new $70 game right at launch.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be really interesting to see if this price increase does hit North America. That's going to be where the rubber hits the road, because if that happens, then yeah, I can easily see even more movement just in the West for just people to go, yeah, sure, the Xbox Series X isn't as good as the PlayStation 5 power-wise, but man, oh man, they offer one hell of a value with that Game Pass
Right.
whole thing. And hell, that even ties into our next story.
Well, before we get to that story, I want to mention that technically you're right. The PlayStation 5 has not risen its price. However, the best way for you to get a PlayStation 5 right now is through PlayStation Direct. And the only model that they have in stock usually is the $550 model of the PS5 or the PS5 digital with a copy of Horizon Forbidden West. Now, some will argue that doesn't count. You're getting a game with it. I would beg to differ because it doesn't cost that much more money to put an extra game for you to purchase the system. You're not rebuilding the PS5 every time because you have a new game. In fact, you're not getting custom plates, I think, for that game either. All you're getting is the game, which honestly, materially will cost them an extra $2 to $5 to just plop the game in there, and then
Not even that, because all it just comes with is literally a paper voucher with a PSN code. So
really,
I would
even if you get
say,
the disc version.
yep. And
Wow.
and so the margin for printing that piece of paper, probably 1 to 5 cents. And then since it's a first party game from one of the Sony internal studios, giving that away is probably damn near nothing.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. So then they raise the price further in order to get that, because most people, okay, most when your console is when you need to get more money and more sales, you increase the value. You don't increase the price. That's what most gaming, what's what most gaming companies have done. In order to prevent them from raising prices on consoles, they throw an extra game in there to make it more enticing, so somebody will want to purchase it. But you don't raise the price when you do it. So, I, yeah, I just said it before. I'll say it again. This is going to hurt Sony the longer this goes on, because if they are the most expensive system out there now, when previously they weren't, that's the really crazy thing. If they're the most expensive system out there now, they're going to be treated with much more scrutiny when it comes to people who haven't bought the system yet. I could see some people who are fans of the PS4 going to purchase a new system and going, yeah, but if I buy the Xbox, I can get Xbox 3 months of Game Pass and enough money to get an extra game on top. Why would I get the PlayStation? So yeah, this is gonna be. I think this is gonna be a bad thing. And if they're smart, has the price the hike happened already, or is there a specific date that when they're implementing this? Because if they haven't implemented it yet, somebody's got to be talking to them saying, "Yo, this is a bad idea. We need to stop this."
I'm on Best Buy Canada, and
Hmm.
it looks like the prices are now in effect.
Oh wow.
And
Okay.
man, oh man, it looks terrible.
Yeah.
Um, so the PlayStation 5 disc console, $650.
Yeah.
Digital console, $519.99. The Horizon Forbidden West bundle with the disc drive, $719.99 in
Yeah.
Canadian, and then 589.99 for the digital edition.
Yeah. That looks terrible. I don't know what exactly they're thinking on this. Well, I know exactly what they're thinking. We're the market leader. You want you want our stuff. This is what you need to do to get it. And you'll get it because you love us. That's what they're thinking. And it's only going to last so long until these, like, you're going to have your diehards, sure. But most regular people aren't diehards. They just want the best console that will play the games they want. And unless it's like a market drop off, like a Switch, they're going to look at the Xbox, look at the PlayStation, see no difference, and say, I'll get the Xbox. So, I don't know. I think this is a bad move on their part, and I think they're going to eat they're going to eat this in ways that they're not anticipating.